people? Happy Sunday. It is Sharla K coming live to you guys with another Forever Friends Academy episode. How are you doing tonight? It's almost Friday. It's almost Friday. Hopefully you guys are relaxing. Enjoy. Today, where I live, was absolutely gorgeous. It was beautiful. Immediately after I came, because I worked outside my home today, I came back and I was like, oh, I gotta go. Like bike riding with my kids because it was so nice. And I didn't, never know how long that's gonna last where I live. So hopefully, if you guys had some good weather, hopefully you enjoyed the day. And yeah. But as per usual, let me introduce myself just in case there is someone new to the broadcast, which I would absolutely love. My name is Sharla Kornegay. I'm an author, recording artist, creator of Interest Coaching, and Forever Friends Academy, which is my subscription-based group membership where we talk about relationships, all relationship topics, as we do on this show, which is titled Of the Same Name. Hey, Justin. As you know, if you've come here before, I'm a firm believer in love. I believe that God is love, and I believe that our whole journey here is to learn how to express, reflect, give, receive love. And we talk about love extensively, any kind of relationship dynamic here extensively. And what I hope to provide is principles that you can use to apply to all of your relationship dynamics. And we talk about fundamental, godly, universal principles that you can apply to any relationship dynamic, familial relationships, co-worker relationships, friendship, and of course, marriage and intimate relationships. So hopefully if you have found me, hopefully you are going to hear something that resonates with you tonight. And if you do, please do subscribe to my Forever Friends YouTube channel and like, comment, spread, etc. Because that would make me happy. That would make me happy. So if you want to check out my music on stage, I go by Sharla K, Sharlak. And go to any of your music platforms of your choice and you can check out any of my music. Hopefully you like some of it. Definitely the holiday season is rolling around, and well, I'm sure if you went to any of the stores, if it's looking anything like it is around my way, they have the Christmas stuff out already. Okay, already. So Justin, one of the producers on my Snowflakes and Gumdrops Christmas album, definitely, if you're one of those people who like to get in the Christmas mood, Christmas spirit early, definitely, play the album. Super proud of it. Justin's song is one of my favorites. It's You on Christmas, Snowflakes and Gumdrops. The title of the album, as well as the song that's on there, is another one of my favorites. But definitely, just check it out. But I do have other music than the Christmas album. And, hopefully you find something you like. So, enough about me. Enough about the music. And let's get into tonight's topic. Now, last time I was on Sunday, which I really enjoyed the conversation, there were lots of people who came on with me. Hey, oh my goodness, Tim, what's going on? Oh my goodness. So good to see you pop in. I appreciate you. I know you were always, when I used to come on, you'd always come on and give great feedback. So I so appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by. But yeah, the last podcast that I did, last episode on Sunday, was a really great conversation. We talked about modern women, and I hate saying that term, but we talked about modern culture and maybe how it is influenced, if it is influencing women of today to mistake a man wanting to cover her versus controlling her. And that was a really good conversation. So I figured we would kind of turn the needle to kind of talk about the men today and ask you guys a question about how you think modern culture is influencing men today and how they are engaging, perceiving women, and of course, how it's affecting the relationships that we either are trying to build or, I've heard much rhetoric, much conversation from men who have literally said that they're just giving up. They're not even approaching women anymore. So the question of tonight is, do you think that modern culture is influencing men to blame the, how do I phrase this? To basically blame modern women and their mentality for almost like the downfall of relationships. So let me try to rephrase that again to make it more simple. Do you think that modern culture is influencing men to deflect the blame and the ownership on the reason why our relationships are failing on women? And let me know. And I have a clip to play for you guys. That's why I thought about this, because I saw a clip this week that kind of touches on that. And tonight we're going to be talking heavily about respect in relationships. And I wanted to tie it in because I want to know if you basically think that, and if any of you guys have been in any type of relationship, especially intimate ones, where you get into conversations or maybe even arguments, and for many of us, sometimes we play the game of deflection, right? Where it's hard sometimes to own up to your own responsibility, right, and become accountable for the things that you brought into whatever the situation is or the conflict that you guys are going through. And oftentimes we'll deflect, right, on each other. We'll say, it was your fault. Or no, it was your fault. And I want to know, when it comes to talking about respect, do you think that that is a form of disrespect? So first of all, one, do you think that modern culture is, I guess, affecting men or influencing men to blame the failure, right, or the inability to create or develop healthy relationships on modern women and their mentality? And do you think that putting the onus or the blame on women for taking on, I guess, a modern mentality in regards to relationships, that is a form of disrespect? So hopefully you guys, are hearing what I'm saying and understanding it. Mr. De Jesus, how are you? Thank you for coming in. So let that marinate. Think about that. I have a clip to play for you guys. But before I play the clip, I just want to ask you a general question about respect to kind of help to further facilitate the conversation. The first question is basically, how do you, or what qualities, or no, I'll put it this way. What do you highly value in others, right? Like, so if there are qualities that you see in others that lets them have a command, a presence about them that makes you want to respect them. Or maybe you can think of it like this. If you can tell me an example of a situation where someone earned your respect in a very lasting way. Like, is there any example, is there any experience or situation where someone earned your respect and it had a big or impression on you, a great impression on you, that what they did, how they did it, had a lasting impression? So that's one. And then the second part of that is, when you think of yourself, how do you demonstrate your value to others, right? Because in the conversation around respect, definitely one of the things that many people do talk about and bring up is, right, it's about what you value in others that allows you to respect them highly because of those qualities or those characteristics, but it's also how you demonstrate, right, how you are valuable to another individual. So that's in a general question to kind of facilitate the conversation. So let me I see some. Oh, okay. I have a question so far. Okay, I got a question at the top of the podcast. Welcome, Dark Prince. He says, how should I respectfully decline my partner's unwanted favors? Now, that is a loaded, well, I don't want to say it's a loaded question. I would say that I feel like I need a little bit more context to it. Because favors is a very broad term, so I don't know exactly specifically what they're doing to you that's making you uncomfortable with it. So how should I respectfully decline my partner's unwanted favors? So if you can give me a little bit more context, of course, without exposing too much, I would appreciate it, because then that would give me a little bit more to have to answer your question. Instantly I can give you a generic answer about creating boundaries and things like that in relationships, but I don't want to give you a generic answer. I want to give it, to hit the target of what you are asking from me. So if you can give me a little bit more context, then I can kind of hit it on the target. But in general, if there are advances or favors or things that are being brought to our attention that are making us uncomfortable, creating some kind of boundaries with how you engage with that person is normatively a way that you can kind of, demonstrate to them how they should interact or treat you by the way that you govern yourself. So that's a generic answer, but definitely if you can give me more context, then I can hit it a little bit more on the target. All right. So, hey, Eric. Hey, Eric. Thank you for coming in. He's like, sing, sing, sing. Eric comes in all the time and tells me to sing. I promise you, I'm working on it. I promise you, I'm working on it. All right, so I laid out a lot for you guys. All right. So I want you to marinate on some of those things that I said, and hopefully I'll get some answers from you. All right. So before I play this little snippet, I'm just going to again state the questions that I've asked you. So in general, when we talk about respect, can you either give me an example, tell me an experience, share with me an experience or a story where someone earned your respect in a very, great way, meaning like they had a lasting impression on you in the way that they did it, right? You can also answer it in this way. If you can't think of an experience, one specific experience, you can tell me, what do you value? What do you highly value in people that kind of commands your respect, whether it's qualities, characteristics. And then secondly, how do you demonstrate your value to others? How do you demonstrate that you're valuable to others, right? Because when we talk about respect, that's definitely at top tier, right? Meaning like what you value is going to cause or influence you to regard a person a certain way and feel like something they've done, something about their characteristic is warranting for you deserving for you to give your respect to them. But also when you're thinking about yourself, how do you demonstrate that you are valuable to others, right? On the other end, where they feel like that you have something in the process of what you're doing, who you are, is deserving of their respect. And mainly the conversation tonight, especially if I have men in here, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you believe that modern culture is influencing men to blame women of the modern culture of today about the failing relationships that we're having? And do you think that's a form of disrespect? All right, so marinate on it, think about it. I'm going to show you this video of, I believe it's a pastor who is talking somewhat about this topic, and I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on his perspective about this. All right, so I'll play the video and then I'll come back to you guys and then we'll talk about it. All right.
husband's like, she don't do this, she don't do that, and I be working hard, I ain't get no respect. I just be looking at him like, man, it sounds like you're dying. He's like, this is exactly how I feel. I said, that means you doing it right. You wasn't meant to live through this marriage, fam. You came down to an altar. What do you think happens at altars? Sacrifice. So Ephesians 5 says, husbands, love your wives like Christ loves the church. Yep. The onus is on the man, and we keep abdicating our responsibility to the woman. We've been doing it since Genesis 3, the woman you gave me. Well, if Adam was really in his position, he would have took the fruit out of her hand and chucked it, and then went straight to God on Eve's behalf to say, I know she should die, take me instead. If that would have played out in Genesis 3 like that, what do you think her response is going to be? She just watched her man take her penalty. Worship. The respect that the man wants is on the other side of his death and his sacrifice.
What does it mean to die practically?
Your ego goes away, pride goes away, you work, and you stop trying to make it seem like it's the biggest sacrifice of all time. You wasn't meant to live through this marriage, fam. You came down to an altar. You didn't slide down into a swimming pool with baby oil.
Wow. That video. Oh, man. When I saw it, I just was like, whew. Especially when he said in the beginning, when he said you weren't meant, right? After he started telling you what the individual, the gentleman he was talking to was, his complaints was of what was going on in his marriage. And when he simply says that first phrase or that first line, that you weren't meant to live through your marriage, right? You literally came down, you, as they say, you walked down the aisle to go to the altar. And what happens on altars, and anybody who has any kind of, whether it's in the biblical context or, you know, that usually when people have altars, they lay down sacrifices there, you know, whether it's them saying they're going to take a new leaf on life and put their prayers up towards sacrificing old mentalities, old habits, and becoming something new. You know, but what are your thoughts, especially if I have some men on here? Do you agree with him? Because in his statements, he says the onus is on the husband. It is on the man, and that not we, but men have been, he's using a biblical reference, Adam and Eve, of saying that men have been deflecting the blame and putting the onus on the women from even back then. And that wasn't and is not what is supposed to happen, right? Where he's like, he should have took that fruit, chucked it, threw it like a football. I'm laughing because I'm chuckling because my husband says that all the time, right? He says that all the time. But where he should have, you know, most definitely not followed in her footsteps. And I love the part where he said, basically, he should have chucked it and then said, I know that she should die because of this, because of her own disobedience, her own rebellion, but take me instead, right? Because I didn't think he was going to, I didn't think he was going to go that route, you know, and end up saying that you figure someone does something, you know, even if it's your wife or your husband, we have a tendency, and I guess that's why he was talking about how does he not live through the marriage, but actually go through a process of dying to his ego and dying to pride, which we talk about extensively on this podcast. That it's going to take that, and most definitely his statements of putting himself in the story and saying if Adam was to do the right thing, he would have said, take me instead. That's definitely the ego has completely definitely died in that type of action to say, even though this was a person who did the wrong in this scenario, but I am coming to I will take the blow. So a lot of, I believe, a lot of gems and things that he said in that. So let me know what your thoughts are, but it definitely ties in with the question that I'm asking you guys tonight. And I think it's befitting because, of course, we were just talking about on the last podcast about women and how modern day culture can sometimes cause women to confuse a man who is wanting to step into husbandry, right? Become a husband, want to provide, want to protect, want to cover, and provide in not just physical ways, but so many other ways too, right? Like mental acuity, emotional, right? Stretch her emotional capacity and her spiritual capacity, and how that modern day culture can skew that or distort that for women in this culture today, and that it can be skewed so much that they can misinterpret that man wanting to have the best interests and best intentions for her, to cover her in totality, as he's trying to control her. So that's definitely something I do see in a lot of of what's going on in current day society. But this is on the flip side, right? When we talk about the men, the current kind of rhetoric that we're hearing in the speech that are coming from a lot of men, is where it's like, okay, relationships, it's hard to develop them nowadays. And the reasoning why is because women have a modern mentality. It's hard. We can't, be in our position because of the things that they've taken in. And that's why I appreciated his video, because he was saying, well, the onus is not on the woman, the onus is on the man. So what do you guys think? Hey, Lion of Yada. I hope I said that right. I feel like I always mess up your name every time you come on, so please forgive me for that. I apologize, but always lovely to see you. We are talking about a lot tonight. We are talking about respect in relationships. One, why is it so important? Two, how do you demonstrate it in relationships? And three, what you just came in on, you missed the clip that I played. But the question of tonight, the main meat and question of tonight, is basically, is modern culture influencing and impacting men to basically deflect, put the blame and the onus on failing relationships, on relationships not being able to be developed and healthy, on modern, quote unquote, modern women, and, the mentality of modern culture and how it has influenced or persuaded women? And do you think that that's a form of disrespect in a relationship? So that's what we're talking about. So I'm curious to see, definitely, if some men aren't here, definitely want to hear from the women. What do you think? And do you think that what I believe his name is Pastor Tim, what he said in the snippet, that as he said, he rolled out a man who was complaining about his wife, and he was feeling like he was just, feeling like he's dying in the relationship. And he said, as he said in the clip, you're not meant to live through marriage. The respect that you get from your wife is on the other side of your death. It's on the other side of your sacrifice. So do you agree with that, where he says the onus is on the man, and that we men have been doing that since the beginning, going back from Adam and Eve, where God calls him, right, and says, Adam, where are you? And what have you done? And he says, the woman you gave me did it, right? What do you think? Do you think that that's how it's some of the distortion and the mentality that is prohibiting us from having successful, right, long-lasting relationships? Do you think, when it comes from the spectrum of men, and how it's affecting their belief system or their mentality, do you think that's true? Is that something you see when you are navigating the space, whether you're single or married? All right, Lion says maturation is key for the two. Yeah, and absolutely, I agree with you. We talk about it from both angles, and as well, you weren't here in the beginning, but I was telling them that we were talking about some of the things that, at least I presented it to the people, and whether they agreed that one of the things that's prohibiting us from developing healthy relationships when it comes to women and how modern culture is kind of pervading their mentality when it comes to being in a relationship, especially being in a marriage, that some of the rhetoric can cause them to confuse a man who's trying to step into a positioning to cover that woman in totality as him trying to control her. So we did talk about that last week. And I'm just wondering, when we talk about the men of today, is that part of deflecting, where, because I know I definitely have heard of it. Definitely, if you are listening to a lot of different relationship, quote unquote experts and things like that, where that's, or just men in general, if you go out and talk amongst them, that's a lot of the rhetoric that you hear. And a lot of the they blame it a lot on modern women of today and the culture of today. I'm sure if any of you guys have seen, God bless his soul, any of Kevin Samuel's videos on YouTube, that was definitely, I think that's one of the main reasons why his show basically skyrocketed when he started to interview women. And of course, presenting a space where issues and concerns of men were now being presented, right? And so probably many men felt like they couldn't say certain things to their partners, now could come to the show where he's expressing and he's saying things that are their concerns, which they a lot of them felt and have stated that in the relationship space industry, that as men they didn't feel heard or seen, right? And a lot of those videos were talking about the mentality of the women and how it was prohibiting them from, right, being able to find viable men who they could grow in relationship with. So yeah, but I'm just putting it out there to see if you guys feel like there's any truth to it. Yeah, deflection for sure, absolutely. Deflection all the way. And if anyone who has been in any type of long-term relationship knows that deflection never works. It never really solves anything when you're deflecting the onus on your partner or someone else. One, because I say, even though that person, when we do that, we usually are turning into like a defense mechanism and defense mode, but that automatically puts you in a weak state, because the moment you put the onus on the other person, then you're dependent on the other person to change, to regulate, or to cause change within the relationship in totality. When you're fully responsible and you say you're accountable for the things that how you're showing up in the relationship, maybe how you're not showing up in the relationship, then the power is in your hand, right? You can grow, you can learn, and you'll either grow through it if it's something that's not for you, or you will be able to grow together because both of you prayerfully will take on that mentality, because the deflection will just cause you to point the fingers at each other all day. So that's why I appreciated his take on it in the video, of saying that the onus, how can we say the onus is on, on the woman? It's on us as men, right? So I really, appreciate that. So far I have an answer. Thank you, Lion of Yehuda. I have an answer from where it said both sides, basically. And maturity is key, and, deflection is what is going on. And hey, how are you? I think it's Dutcher. I'm not going to, I feel like I'm already butchering the name. I so appreciate you. Thank you. I think this is your first time to the show, so welcome. We are talking about respect. What is, first of all, right? And another question I would love to ask you guys, because I think we talk about that. The true architect. I think, right? Did I do it right? I hope it is. Thank you. He was like, let me put it all in caps. Help you out a little bit. I so appreciate it. Oh, that was Lion. Thank you so much. That did help me. The true architect. Thank you. I so appreciate it. Yeah, I so appreciate you joining. And I want to ask you guys because, right, this is thrown out a lot, especially like I let me know if any of you guys have heard this. I know you definitely had to though, where men say, even more than love, I want you to respect me, right? Even more than love, I want respect. Majority of men say that, right? So with that being said, if you're a man on here, tell us what giving respect looks like to you, right? Or yeah, basically tell us how giving respect, how to give respect in a relationship, and what does that look like from a man's perspective. And I would also, because we don't hear it a lot in the conversation when it comes to women, because I think women also in relationships want to be respected. I know that they say because of how differently we are made, love is more of a key essential thing for us. But I do think that women want to be respected, but I don't think we talk about what is so much of what that looks like in a relationship and in a marriage. So definitely if you're on here, let me know from both ends, both sides, what does it look like? How do you demonstrate respect in a relationship? How do you give it? What does it look like? And for some people who came in at a later time, when I began the podcast, I asked, what do you highly value in others, right? Whether it's like characteristics, qualities, and also how do you demonstrate to others, right? How do you demonstrate that you are valuable to others? Because when we're talking about respect, that's definitely right. What do you value and how do you show your value to others, right? Lion says, can you blame? It has always been taught in the church according to the scriptures. Can you blame? I'm not sure if I read that right. I think you said, can you blame? It has always been taught in the church according to the scriptures. Are you saying it's been taught to blame or not to blame? I'm not sure. Can you blame? It has always been taught in the scriptures. Let me know if I'm reading that right. If you're saying, can you blame in general, like that has always been taught that way? Women respect your husbands. Oh, okay. I think I'm getting it. Thank you. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to process what they're typing at the same time. Okay. I think she's saying, can you blame why I guess people think that way? It has always been taught in the church according to the scriptures. Women respect your husbands. Husband love your wives. Okay. I think I'm getting it now. She's basically saying that has biblically been taught that way. So yeah, no, definitely, right? For sure. Those scriptures are taught in that way. I think when I think of being respected as a woman or as a wife in my relationship, I think just valuing the position that she holds. I think when it comes to women, because we are most definitely different from men in a lot of ways that we're built. The fact that we can, for those who can, because not everybody can, but if you are giving the ability to biologically bring a child into the world, there's certain very vulnerable aspects to the transitions that we make, and transformations that we go through. And I think sometimes that can be looked at as weak or maybe people have interpreted or perceived it as being weak in a very demeaning or diminishing way. But that vulnerability is really just a very sacred process that she's in. that must be protected because of the fact that she is the bridge that, right, all humanity has to come out of. So I think for when especially if I'm dealing with my clients or just experientially, when I think of being respected by my husband, I think that's what comes up for a lot of women, where it's appreciate or value my position that I play in the relationship, even if that position in the process looks like it's more delicate, more sensitive or more vulnerable, or maybe even in your interpretation of it or how you perceive it to be weak in that way. So that's my thoughts on it. You guys let me know. But I understand what Lion is saying, that's how we've been taught in that way. But I think on both ends, I think both men and women want to be loved and respected. The way that I have always looked at respect and the way I define it in the book that I wrote is that respect is really that respect is an expression of honor. And we have talked about it before on the show that you can honor somebody that you don't respect. Most definitely you can, right? But someone who does truly honor someone will want to express that honor through respect. And I say this all the time too, because even when I hear men say, more than love, I want to be respected, I'll always say to them that in this world, when we talk about respect, it's what you earn, right? It's merited to you because you earned it, right? And so what happens when something you've earned or status is taken away, or how you were functioning before, or something happens and you can't function that way anymore? Is the respect going to leave because of that? It shouldn't, right? But sometimes it does. There are a lot of men who will be with women who say they respect them, but if it's void of love and if it's void of honor, then when life situations occur and bumps are in the road, then that respect can be taken away and it can decrease. So really maintaining honor for someone and understanding that, the respect is coming as an expression of that honor that I have for them, so that even if there are times where situations happen and now things aren't the way that they used to be or status is dropped, that I'm not going to lose the respect for you. So I want to take a moment because I'm getting some new things. Lion says, as unto God, and that was in regards to saying, women, respect your husbands, husbands, love your wives. And can we stand in each other's shoes and see the other side? Not of this world. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what it's all about, right? Like, there'll be no need for really marriage and a union if you're not going to do that, And I think, and I've said it like this before to, my clients and definitely other people that I've spoken to, is that, as the husband, God definitely said he created, right? Let's go back to Adam. He created Adam and said that it's good for him not to be alone, right? And that he would need a helpmeet, right? So a part of showing and expressing respect in a relationship towards your wife and showing love as well is understanding and honoring the fact that, her support, receiving that, embracing that support, and honoring and having appreciation and admiration for that support in the relationship. And then, of course, the woman respecting and honoring her husband to say, like, listen, he's supposed to look at you and say, you are bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh, right? You come from me. You are a direct reflection from God, right, of who I am. And so receiving, right, whether it's his allowance of him and believing and putting faith in his capacity and ability to lead in the relationship and things like that, right? That's showing respect, that's showing honor in those ways. And I think definitely what Lion was saying, like getting into each other's shoes and wanting to delight in the differences and discovering how those differences, and when we bring it together, show and reflect, right, the holistic, I'm gonna say entity, but all of what God is, of that union being, right, and an expression of that, as much as it can be, right, because God is so expansive. So I agree with that absolutely. It says a covenant relationship. Yes, absolutely. In a covenant relationship. Absolutely. I totally agree with you in that. So I would definitely, I agree with the pastor on the snippet that I showed you guys. I do think that is something that I do see today with a lot of the men currently and today, and I've seen it get so drastic where a lot of them have said we're not even going to approach women anymore because of the frustration that they're dealing with when it comes to women and quote unquote their view and modern twists on relationships that they have expressed are prohibiting their ability to, want to put themselves in a position to lead, to cover, etc. So, but I do agree with what he said in the video that, just for the very fact of that deflection, it doesn't really work, and you see it all through that whole scripture, because he doesn't just do it to her, right? She also deflects it on the snake, the serpent, right? Like, it just seems, right? That's what what the ego just automatically goes to try to preserve and protect itself or hide what it has done, is to deflect it on another individual. And you see that it doesn't do any good. So for that principle and that reason alone, I think that that's something that we would have to grow out of and see that, part of, I guess, taking on the onus, not to say that you have to entertain. I do think there's some truth to it, because we did talk about it on Sunday about how modern culture and some of the things that it's causing women to kind of, have skewed vision about. So I'm not saying that's not true. That is true. However, deflecting and placing the blame is not going to put that man in the position to find a woman who is trying to tune into God, trying to walk in a way where they are governing themselves by the wisdom of God, and then can identify that this is a man of God who's trying to come into my space, and be able to acknowledge that, be able to appreciate it, and be receptive of it. It's only causing what you see happening, like, oh, I'm not going up to any woman because they're all da-da-da-da. It's a waste of time. It's frustration. It's frustrating and things like that. And so all you have is the deflection. All you have is the blame. And then and then everybody's out of position, right? Like there's no full circle. There's no where we can come together and provide solutions or demonstrate clearly enough to where those who honor the way that you are governing your life and governing yourself can say, oh, this is someone who I most definitely wholeheartedly want to follow, because I see what they're doing and I see that it's a reflection, of God, of the Father, etc. Lion says, what if he does not look like God? How does one respect? One must take accountability for their own words and actions. Yeah, exactly. But I love what you said, before that, you said, what if he does not look like God? And how does one respect? Oh my gosh, such a good question. So good, I'm going to put on the broadcast so that other people can see it a little bit better. Really love that. And I love that because what we're talking about right now, I have presented it to my group coaching. I have a subscription-based membership group coaching that I do offline, not, I'm talking to you guys live and things like that. But we do coaching different times within the month. And we were talking about respect just like this. And when we were talking about it, there were some examples, biblical examples that came to me that when I was thinking in the same way that Lion was saying, because you hear it, right? Like, how can I respect you if you don't, govern yourself in a certain way? It's not going to, especially if we're talking about earning, right? Respect is earned. So, but I thought about 3 examples. I thought about David and Saul, right, in the Bible. And for anyone who is not familiar with the story, David basically is a shepherd, and he, well, I don't know, should I call him a shepherd? Yeah, he kind of was, right? But he handled the sheep, his father's, right, sheep. And Saul was the king at that time, and basically God was handing over the mantle to David. And then in the process of the story, Saul is kind of going through, he's being tormented basically in his soul. And then David actually he's called to go to Saul to play music. He was a minister of music in the Bible, and he goes and he plays the music, and only when he plays the music is Saul so, put at peace and put at rest and things like that. And so at first it's a great relationship, right? He's because Saul, the king, he's appreciative of David's service to him in easing his heart and his soul. But as time goes on, David starts to shine as he is destined to, and then jealousy comes in Saul's heart towards him. So much that he goes to great lengths to try to kill him, right? Literally chase him down to try to kill him. And in the process, there are many opportunities that David has there where he can kill him, where literally Saul's trying to chase him to kill him. And there are moments where he is completely wide open for David to kill him. But David says, no, he will not. He will not kill God's anointed, because only God can put people in right positions of authority and things like that. And so I guess that's what's the difference between honor and respect, right? Because in that moment, he's not conducting himself probably in a way that many of us would say would warrant David's respect for him, or even for David to grant him grace or mercy in that moment. But because of his own moral, right, standards, and how he is reverent to how God has positioned someone else in his life, even if that person in his life has turned on him, gave him the wherewithal to not kill him, to not smite him, and still grant grace, still grant mercy, and still respect. And so I would say in that same way, I would answer that question by saying that and I was just recently talking about this, of saying this is what I was going to bring up to my private coaching group, as well as going to bring it to my live. And my husband said something that I really love. He said, you can feel however you want to feel, right, about someone who is doing something that has offended you and things like that, but you don't have the right to disrespect someone who has blessed you or been a blessing to you in that moment. You can feel however you want to feel, but to come to a point of disrespect, then that's you dishonoring however that person was brought into your life. And of course, that's a very mature That's a dying of the ego, as in that video. That's a taking a death to the ego and to pride, and that's what it takes. So in that answering that question, that's how you respect someone who does not look like God, meaning like they're not functioning in a way that you feel like it's so deserving of the respect. That would mean that your respect is only going to be warranted when that person is on the straight and narrow, right? And we talked about this maybe a couple of episodes ago where we were talking about the difference between honor and respect. And I was saying to the participants on that night, especially if you're in a marriage situation, that life happens, right? And when there are moments that your partner is not looking or not functioning in the way that they did in the beginning, or the way that you think would make you feel more willing and open to be receptive of them, that's where we place honor. And honor is different from respect because you honor someone based on the spiritual significance that they have in your life. That's why, and we talked about the scripture in the Bible talking about honoring your mother and your father so that your days will be long, not their days, but your days, right? So that means it's literally something about you enacting and empowering certain characteristics within yourself that are not being swayed by someone's external actions towards you, or being swayed by life's external circumstances or situations. So that's how we respect someone who doesn't look like God. And that's why, for me, I know it's been helpful for me to still be able to give respect to people who maybe I don't feel is necessarily showing up in a way that where I can say, okay, that this person's earning my respect. Is that honor is, respect is an expression of honor, right? It's how we externally kind of express that honor. And when I think about honor, knowing that honor, you can bestow it on someone whether they've earned it or not, because you know the spiritual significance that that person plays. So maybe in David's mind, even though that was challenging, even though I'm sure going through that was not pleasant, but I'm sure it created him to become the type of king that he was, right? A man after God's own heart, that it didn't matter what was going on around him on the outside. And even when it came to his own, right, faults, or sins, he would always run back to God because he's going to hold on to what's true no matter what it is. And so when you view it like that, then yeah, you can grant respect and honor to someone even when they don't look like the way that God does, as she said. Hey, Goddess, how are you? Let me read some of the things. Okay, it says, is it possible that the differences are pulling on something inside? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I'd say it all the time here in the podcast. Like, if you are looking to be in a relationship or looking towards marriage, thinking you're looking for someone who is going to be just the same as you, that's not what relationships are about. Just in an intimate space, but in the world as a whole, we consist of an interdependent system of trust of people who are not alike, who have to learn how to embrace the differences and, right, find respect. To me also is, right, having admiration and appreciation and gratitude for the people in your life. That's why it's so important to have in a relationship, because it's literally you saying, I value the position that you play in my life. I value who you are and how you show up. And even though your characteristics, your qualities that you bring are different from mine, it's so necessary. I can see where the pieces of the puzzle come together that are different, but there are grooves where it's connected, right? And that our differences, when we come together and we honor them and put some respect towards them, then a greater vision is created. So yeah, I definitely think that the differences are pulling something inside. I have said many times on this podcast that I believe that when it comes to God and his creations, that he never makes duplicates. I don't care. I'm sure everybody, maybe someone on here might have a doppelganger, like somebody who looks like them. I just had the other day, I went to the store, somebody, no matter where I go, somebody was like, do you know you look like Kerry Washington, right? Like you look just like her, right? So that might be my celebrity twin or something like that. But no matter what, I don't care if they're doing the same exact thing you're doing. God never makes duplicates. So however, it's going to filter differently through you. And because God never makes duplicates, it's great for you to stand in who you are, and be unique in that way and be okay with the fact that you're not the same from someone else, and learn whatever your position is and play it well, and serve out of it. So I think that's most definitely the differences definitely are triggering. And I think we were just talking about on the last podcast how when somebody comes into your life, one of the hardest things to do is when that person comes and they expose and reveal certain things about yourself that you might not even have considered, might not have known, or at least maybe if you did know a little bit on the surface, they're exposing it in greater depths, where you have to drop the defense mechanism of saying, well, this is not why you're here. You're just here to love me. You're just here to, give me attention and love on me the way I want you to, but not to tell me about myself, not to expose things that I feel like I'm not. I didn't give you, full permission to, right? Your partner is there to do that. I say it on my, I've said it many times in my private coaching that you want to marry someone who's a worthy adversary of the vices that wish to hold you captive, right? And so for that person to be that towards you, they must come with truth. And sometimes that truth might be uncomfortable. Sometimes that truth might be hard to hear. But they come and they stand in the gap for you as you go through those transformations and processes. So yeah, I agree with you. I think sometimes that the differences are triggering. And no, both are respected and loved now. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely believe that, of course, ideally, right? That's what we would want. I think the reason why the Bible highlights it in that way is because you can kind of see it in the current climate where the reason why the Bible would say the wife respect her husband and really, right, submit. Wife submits to their husband and the husband love the wife as she is your own flesh, right? Because you can see it in today's culture where women, especially let's just say American culture, right? Because it's not happening everywhere. But in our culture, you have women who are climbing the professional ladder, whether it be education, increasing in education on professional levels. And when you start to hear the conversations of women who are in higher status positions making a certain amount of money, they start to have language that they can't find any viable suitors. They start to have language that I can't date, quote unquote, down. He has to make either exactly what I make or more than me, right? Because sometimes the respect will not be there if that's not in place. Whereas that's not really an issue with men. They'll date, you'll see many men of making, astronomical amount of has an astronomical amount of wealth and will not care at all, really, what the woman is bringing to the table when it comes to finances and things like that. But we can see it in society of the imbalance that it kind of unfortunately brings. And don't get me wrong, there's outliers. I just saw an interview with, I think it was Marsha Ambrosia, and she recently got married, and the person that she married was just literally her driver, a driver who was working on her tour, and when he stopped working on tour, he did Uber. But you don't hear a lot of those stories, you don't hear a lot of those stories. So I think though the parts that are either more tempting or can be more of a vice for either a woman or man, that's what I think that why God highlighted it in that way. Not to say that they aren't supposed to be loved and respected, but I think what's coming out is kind of watch out for this, because if you don't get grounded in this, it causes a shift in the infrastructure in the way that God intended it to be. Right? So that's what I think about that. But Goddess Speed says, I like the way you said that worthy adversary. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, definitely. It came out one of the times that I was doing my private group membership coaching, because so many people I think a lot of the men who are on there, when they think about their wives, they want a wife who can cook, who can clean, keep a nice home and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Just on a basic level, like whether you're now married or not, you should learn how to cook. You got to take care of yourself. You should definitely learn how to keep your home clean, whether you're a man or woman, etc. But I told them that you'll hear that, right? But how many women can do that? Lots of women can do that. They can cook, they can clean, they can keep a whole household well too. But more deeply, when you're saying you're looking for a wife or you're looking for a husband, that's what you want. You want that person who is going to be that worthy adversary against, a formidable person that is going to help to ensure that the vices that wish to overtake you don't, and don't hold you captive. And sometimes that is, I think, one of the ways that you can show respect in a relationship is to stand in the gap for your partner when they are going through seasons where they are not, right, acting, or reflecting in the best way, or showing up in the best way, or displaying or demonstrating the way that God has told them to. I thought about another example. David and Saul was the first one I thought about, but then I thought about Ruth, the story of Ruth in the Bible. That story always touches me, where that's an example of where, right, honor is showed and respect is showed. For those who might not know the story, it's a story about a wife, and she's married to her husband. She has 2 sons. The sons grow up. They also get married. And then, unfortunately, a turn for the worse happens. The husband dies, and basically all of their husbands die, right? In this story, it's so crazy. All of their husbands die, and the mother-in-law of the 2 daughters, because now it's just the mother-in-law and the daughters, tells them, one daughter-in-law is named Naomi and the other one is named Ruth, and she says, I can't care for you guys anymore. This is a destitute situation. You should just leave to try to remarry, right? To put yourself in a better positioning, because you don't want to stay here in this destitute situation with me. And one of them leaves, Naomi, but the other one, Ruth, says, no, wherever you go, I'm going to go. Wherever you go. She does not, she stays loyal, basically. She does not leave. And it blessed me so much. And I thought about that story in the context of what we're talking about today with respect, because that's an example of where status changes, right? Status in the way that you're living your life changes, but the daughter-in-law's respect and honor for her mother did not change, even though the status and the situation did, right? And how many, of course, in the modern day today in culture, how many people leave when the status changes, and so that's why I understand the mainstream way of thinking about respect of, it's just earned and, someone's earned it and then you give it. I think that's why I love pulling it back to godly fundamental principles, because I don't think you can, I don't see where God kind of detaches respect from honor, and in that story she shows her mother-in-law's honor and respect and commitment and loyalty, and she stands in the gap really also for her with her keeping the faith that they would be okay. And then eventually, right, God uses her to not only restore her own life, but then she also restores, right, the life of her mother-in-law, right? And this is her mother-in-law, mother-in-love, however you want to term it. This is not a biological, it's not her biological mother. So I think a form of showing respect is and how you can be a worthy adversary for the person that your partner, your husband, your wife, somebody who you believe is a potential husband or wife is, can that person stand in the gap for you when you are going through a season of transition, when, right, it doesn't look so up, and when the ebbs and flows of life come, can they be sturdy enough to stand, So, yeah, absolutely. So that's one thing I always say. I always say, hey, Esquire Music, how are you? And my coach, Jean, more men in here. Let me know your thoughts, guys. We were talking about respect. I don't know if you guys are still in here, but we're talking about respect tonight. Let me know, as a man, what does it look like for a woman to, give respect, demonstrate respect to you? We're talking about in modern culture right now, is modern culture persuading men to deflect the blame of the failing relationships on women and them embracing modern day mentality? And do you think that that's helping the situation? Do you think that's a form of disrespect? Deflection? Yeah. Maybe if we did look at deflection as a form of disrespect, we would do it less to each other. Maybe? I don't know. What do you guys think? So that is all of the things that we're talking about tonight. So, yeah. But thank you, Lion. You always give so much. Great. I appreciate you. I respect you. Let me offer my respect to you because you always come and you always, first of all, taking the time out to type is a whole nother thing, and I appreciate it. And what you offer and what you add to the conversation, I value it and I appreciate it. Thank you. And that was a great question, seriously, because I'm sure there are many people at home were wondering that too. How do you offer respect when that person doesn't look like God, right? And I think really honestly, for the myriad of divorces that happen right now in current day, I think that's it. I think people, we don't know how to handle that. The moment that it does not look the way it looked in the beginning, the people are just like, I'm out. I think people's level, well, I'll put it this way. I've always said it like this on the podcast, that relationships fail not because people don't know how to compromise with each other, but because people don't know how to sacrifice anymore. And when people think of the word sacrifice, they don't even think of the rewards that you get from it. They just think you sacrifice and you just sacrificing yourself and that's it. And you're not going to get any reward and you're not going to increase in your capacity and things like that. But it's actually the very opposite. And so many people are used to compromising that when times and challenges come in their relationship where compromise is not going to do it and only sacrifice will, they're like, no, I haven't even built the muscle to do that. So how can I? How can I? So, I think, unfortunately, that's what causes a lot of relationships to break. Lack of honor, lack of respect, And I think when it comes to respect, and demonstrating it and the action of it in a relationship, it's necessary and important because that's how you make sure that the honor in the relationship does not drop or decrease. When you are intentional about demonstrating and showing actions to give respect to the gifts, the people who God had put in your life. When you do that, then it only fortifies the relationship more. So yeah, as always, good conversation, guys. Thank you. Their gratitude for your presence as well. Living sacrifice, right? That's the thing. I think we forgot. And I call myself out too. I have to remind myself if that's so right. We're supposed to be living sacrifices, right? Like that's literally right what we're supposed to be doing. But the culture that we live in does not honor or put appreciation or the due respect, right, on what sacrifice is and the process and what it affords you for you yourself as an individual, but also how it also will impact your relationship. So, yeah, very good. So just to summarize and kind of wrap up the conversation for tonight, definitely we were talking about respect. We are talking about respect. And when it comes to respect, this is the way that I have just kind of chosen to describe it, is that respect is, an expression of honor. And when you think about respect, you can think about what qualities you value, or what things you highly value. And then more importantly, I think about how you demonstrate how you're valuable to someone else, and then show up and serve in that way out of how valuable you are. And we were talking about is, the current modern culture, are they, where men are taking on the idea that it's the modern woman and her modern mindset is what's causing the relationships to fail. And is that a form of disrespect? And will that deflection on the woman and trying to put the onus on her, is that going to do anything to help, create healthy relationships? And I would say, in my opinion, I don't think deflection on either end is good. I think the best way to change anything, whether just you wanting to change your life individually or wanting to a change in your relationship, is when you start looking at yourself and when you are willing to put yourself on the sacrificial cutting board to see what it is that God's light needs to expose within you, so that different, things that are hiding, shadows, can disperse. And you can kind of, be who you truly are. That's the true power that we hold. Even when you have a great leader who's demonstrating something, you see a great leader, they don't really have to beg someone or tell them to really follow them. It's their demonstration that motivates and inspires people to just follow them, because what they're doing, they are attracted to it. So I think we can put the onus on ourselves, to be better people and to grow. And I think conversations like this is good, to where we can kind of put it on, okay, what is the culture, the modern day culture? What are some of the things and some of the ways that either the women are being influenced by it and the men are being influenced by it, to now cause us to not come together and build relationships, healthy relationships that last a lifetime. So great conversations to have, to kind of identify them. And that way we're not just putting it, all on either one of their corners, right? But we can kind of see where we can improve and grow. So yes, reflection, absolutely. Did you value yourself? Is that a question for me, or you're just saying for the person to ask themselves, did you value yourself? If it's a question for me, yes, I can answer that question. And I think there was a question where I said, how do you demonstrate you are valuable to others? I find many different ways that I bring value. I think one of the main ways that I bring value is just in my capacity and my willingness. I think my willingness first before capacity, because the willingness comes first and then God stretches my capacity to serve more. But in my willingness to selflessly serve people, on all different levels. But I think the one that I like the most is when someone comes into my home, and I like investing my time, my energy, my food. That's definitely one of the ways I add value to people, because many of the people in my family, my friends, they like my cooking. And it's selfless for me because I don't really like cooking. I don't like the process of cooking. But when I cook, I want the people who are eating the food, for one, it to be good, for two, for them to feel that I made it with love and wanting them to be rejuvenated and restored with it. So yeah, in the way that I serve, but of course in the coaching, I've been able to help people kind of connect dots and see things more clearly than they could before. So I'm grateful for that. So definitely in areas of like offering wisdom, offering clarity, but I think definitely in my way to selflessly serve others, especially when it comes to my investment of time and energy, and wanting to create an environment and an atmosphere where God can do something, period, point blank. Not even like me, but wanting to facilitate creating an atmosphere where God can do something. I think that's how I offer value to others, because I think just whether it's you individually blocking your own blessing, or you want to have an open heart posture where God can come in and do so many amazing things in your life. And unfortunately, all of us, right, whether it's a mindset, whether it's a mentality, whether it's fear, doubt, expectations, all kind of things can come to block it. So just trying to keep myself in a heart posture and a positioning where I'm not in a closed off position, so that I can't either hear or receive, etc., or serve, to be able to facilitate or participate, really, because it's an honor. And I'm grateful anytime I can facilitate God's will being done here in any kind of way. That's really one of the main reasons why I do this. Because if you are home with me, my husband will tell you I'm more of a be quiet and kind of listen and observe type of person. I'm not a person who likes to talk a lot. But here I am. I always say, God, you are like a comedian. Because it's based on how I am internally. Like, I'm a very private person. I like to kind of like just watch and learn. I love watching and learning. I can kind of store and hibernate. Like, when it comes to God's wisdom and learn things, I can kind of store it and hibernate. But I guess God was like, yeah, that's why I can have you talk. You talk because you don't want to talk. And then if you store all that up, then you're going to get selfish, because what you're going to do is just get fat off of it and not share it with nobody. I guess that's how he flipped it, right? That's how it would have turned into selfishness. So, yeah. So, I can do it when it's like, slotted out times, like you will talk now. But yeah, so hopefully that answered your question. Yes, to those who are willing, for sure, because not everybody is, And I've just seen the reward of how I live by the scripture in the Bible that says, let the greatest among you be a servant. And to whom much is giving, much is required. So that always, reappropriates my heart when I think that, which it definitely does come from time to time. Like, you're serving, you're doing this, you're doing that. How are you doing all this? I just think of those scriptures and it reappropriates it really quick. So, yeah, service, exactly. Serve while you can. Serve while you can. I always tell my clients, I always ask them, who did you serve today? And if you ask throughout the day, if you haven't served anyone today, facilitate, do something to serve someone, because everything that God created, he created to serve. Even from the most micro things, whether it's the little bacteria that we don't see, all of the things that break down and go all back into the life cycle, it all serves. No one is going to go through this life process and this journey without serving in some type of form and way. And even to the people who are listening, what about the evil people and people who do evil things? It serves. It triggers, as Lion was talking about, it triggers humanity. And some of humanity's greatest moments when people could drop all of the differences that we see, day to day, is when the most atrocious things happen, and then it causes people from all across the world to unite to say this was an injustice and we need to fight and we need to unite and come against it, or something like that. So all of it serves, all of it serves. So I would say, if there's anything that we can walk away with in tonight's conversation about respect, and how you can demonstrate it or give in a relationship, is through service, one to another, and when you get the service, you can offer some honor and appreciation and admiration for the effort that was done and was given. Right? It's as simple as that. But we forget it every day, because we can oftentimes feel entitled to the things and not realize that it's all a miracle. So, yeah, that's one of the ways. If you want to know how to give respect in a relationship, that's one simple question you can ask throughout the day. How am I serving? Have I served someone today? How can I serve? How can I be of service to you, to my partner? So, but thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. I say it and I will say it over and over again. Your time, your energy, your faith are some of the most precious currencies, priceless, precious currencies in the world. So if you stopped in my show for a minute, for a second, for the whole show, I am so grateful to you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I hope you heard something that resonated. I hope you heard something that you can apply to your relationship. And if you have and you like this content, and you like this type of content needs to be out more into, the social media space, definitely go to my channel, Forever Friends Academy. Subscribe, like, comment, spread, etc. I'm usually on Thursday evenings and Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So hopefully I'll be back on, God willing, on Sunday, and I will have some of you beautiful people on to have another great conversation with me. Thank you, Lion. Thank you for all of your beautiful comments and all the gems that you dropped. She says, one to another, love your neighbor as yourself, right? Simply said. So true. Absolutely. So true. So I appreciate you guys. And, as I always like to say, if you want to dive deeper, if you want to get more specific, as far as, what's going on with you, I do private coaching as well as group coaching. So offline, off here privately. So definitely if you're on any of the platforms, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, etc., it's in the website is in the description. If you're on IG, just check the link in my bio and you'll be able to hear some of the snippets from my group coaching and be able to inquire about the private coaching. So until then, always remember to live to love freely. Until next time, you guys have a beautiful and wonderful night, and thank you for all of your wisdom. All right, have a good night, guys. Bye.